So I'm on my last day in Maine, a little bit of a family trip. And on the coast of Maine where we are, which is near Portland, there are lots of these really interesting salt marshes. Fortunately, I happen to be recording this where there isn't much of a salt marsh to show you, but we were doing a little tide pooling here at this place called Crescent Beach at low tide. And the tides in Maine are not the most extreme in the world or even in North America, but there's a pretty big difference between low and high tide, and so you get these really interesting tide pools. But these salt marshes are really cool. I looked it up. Apparently they form in areas that essentially have some protection where the wave action is lessened to a degree that you get this kind of washing of the salt and fresh water, like in a mouth of river or an estuary, that creates these salt marsh conditions. If you saw in the Lord of the Rings movies when they're in the dead marshes, it kind of looks like that. It's actually quite pretty, but I can see how under different circumstances they might be really treacherous. Lots of obviously wet holes, and where these little streams or parts of the river estuary system have kind of dug channels throughout this basically grasslands, very obviously moist, soft grasslands, but very wet. We're driving or walking on paths near the wetlands, so of course it's very pretty. But I can imagine if you're trying to truck your way through them somewhere in, say, an expeditionary sense, in, you know, the old favorite fantasy role-playing game, might be a lot different in terms of having to watch every step, not knowing, can't really see too far, or rather you can see fine, but all this stuff is hidden because you have these kind of tallish grasses and everything sort of dug into the ground. You really can't see stuff until it's almost right on top of you. So I'm gonna look at it more in terms of what it might be as sort of a fantasy location, because I think it's a really interesting spot. Gave me some inspiration, and I thought I would share that inspiration with you. I don't know in terms of wildlife what would be there, what kind of fantasy wildlife might make sense to be there, but I can see all kinds of, I don't know, alligators, crocodiles. I don't know what kind of animals are good in the sort of brackish environment of these salt marshes. I'll have to look it up more, but check out salt marshes. If you've got some wetlands and you've got some barrier islands in front, maybe think of making them salt marshes. I know I read that I think when you get further tropical, like in a place like Florida, you end up with those kinds of evergreen type situations. But up here in the northern latitudes, you get these kind of grassy marshes. Game on.